Hello, students. Today you are going to read the chapter The Landscape of the Soul by Nathalie Trouvroy. Before proceeding towards the chapter, I want to say something to you. If you have not subscribed our channel, please subscribe it. Press the bell icon so that you can get the current notifications. Now let us talk about the author of the chapter. Nathalie Trouvroy, she is an art historian. She is the wife of Belgian ambassador to India. She has held her master's degree in history of art and archaeology. Archaeology, it is the study of old monuments or traditional things. She has completed her master's degree from Belgium. She has become famous due to her translated work, City to Museums. Before proceeding towards the chapter, I want to discuss something about the title of the chapter. As you can see here, the landscape of the soul. What is landscape? Do you know? Okay, so landscape is everything that you can see when you look across the area of land. So whatever comes in your view, that is called landscape. Or another meaning of the landscape, it is a picture or it is a painting that shows a view of the countryside. But here the title is Landscape of the Soul. What is landscape of the soul? The landscape actually is an inner one, a spiritual or conceptual space. The phrase which is used here, landscape of the soul, explains the Chinese art form where a Chinese painter wants the readers to enter his mind rather than borrow his eyes. So this is a physical as well as mental participation. So I think you might have understood the title of the chapter. The more you will understand when you will read the chapter, when you will read the summary of the chapter. Now, what is the theme of the chapter? The chapter is about the difference between Chinese painting and Western painting. So, in this chapter, as you know, Nathalie Trouvroy, she herself had a very great interest in paintings. So, here she has given a description and she has shown the difference between Chinese paintings and Western paintings. What is the difference? It is very important to note Chinese paintings are actually based on imagination. They are imaginative, inner and spiritual. So their approach towards the art is imaginative, it is spiritual. It reaches to the soul of the art. On the other hand, European or Western painting, they are based on actual view of an external or real object. So here you will find the difference. Chinese paintings are based on imagination. European paintings, they are based on real object, they are actual. So this is the main difference. On the other hand, Chinese paintings are spiritual in approach. They are spiritual in approach. The painter or the artist tries to reach in the mind of the reader. He wants that readers should also understand his mind, and from his imagination or spiritual approach or inner approach, reader should view his paintings. Now, some expressions are used in this chapter. It is very important to understand them. What are the anecdote? Anecdote is a short account of particular event or any incident. So it is a kind of a account that we make about any particular event or any incident. Delicate realism. It is an alluring quality of the art which makes it seem real. What is allure? Allure means attracting quality of the art which makes it seem real. Illusionistic likeness. Illusion. Illusion, it is a kind of doubt, bhram. Illusionistic likeness. It refers to an adjective of technique using pictorial method in order to deceive the eyes. Here, our eyes can be deceived. Now, figurative painting. Figurative painting refers to metaphoric representation of a piece of art through the eyes of creator's imagination. Here we will see the painting through the eyes of the creator's imagination, what he has imagined while making the painting. So we, the readers, also have to see from the same angle. Now let us come to the summary part. You will see here this chapter is divided into two parts. The first part, it deals with the examples of two stories. Here the writer starts with the example of the stories that are related to Chinese painting. The first story is about Bu Daozi. Who is Bu Daozi? He was a Chinese painter, a great Chinese painter. And he lived in 8th century. So one day what happened that the emperor, whose name was Xuanzong, he called him to decorate his palace ball. Bu Daozi decorated the ball very nicely. He painted one painting where mountains were there, waterfalls were there, forest, clouds floating in the sky, man going on the hilly path, and birds flying in the sky. And at the foot of the mountain, he had made one cave where one spirit lives. Now, this is the description of the painting which he has made on the palace ball. And this painting he had hidden with one screen because he didn't want to show that painting to anyone else. It was for the emperor only. Now, what happened? Very strange to know that while showing the painting, the painter clapped his hands. And when he clapped his hands, what happened? The door of the cave opened. The painter said to king that inside of the cave is very splendid, very beautiful. I want to show you that splendor. Do one thing, you come after me. So as soon as he entered the cave, the painting disappeared. Very strange thing happened. As soon as the painter Bu Daozi entered in the cave of the painting, it disappeared and it could never come out of it. The disappearance of the painting signifies the knowledge of a spiritual world. Here the painter, he had the knowledge of a spiritual world. He said one spirit lives in the cave. It means he had a great knowledge of that spiritual world. Only the great painters can know this thing. And the great painter knows the way inside and can go beyond material appearance. Only great painters have this insight that they can go inside, they can reach the spirit of the painting, and this is beyond material experience. This is the example of Chinese painting, as I told you. So Chinese painting, I told you the qualities, the characteristics of Chinese paintings are that they are based on imaginative, inner and spiritual approach, whereas Western or European paintings, they are based on realistic approach. This is the main difference that already I have discussed with you. What is the difference between the two? Now, one more story is there. Contrast to this story, writer tells another story about a famous painter who wouldn't draw the eye of a dragon he had painted because he feared that it would fly out of the painting. So you can see here, this painter, he had made dragons, but he could never make the eyes of those dragons because he was afraid, when I will make the eyes of these dragons, they will fly away from the painting. Now next story which the writer tells, that is a story about Antwerp. Antwerp, he was a master blacksmith. And he was also known as Quentin Matsys. So this person, Antwerp, or you can call him Quentin Matsys. By profession, he was a blacksmith who did the work of iron. He fell in love with painter's daughter. But painter, he could not accept the blacksmith as his son-in-law. The reason was his profession was totally different from him, and as a painter, he could not accept him. But Quentin Matsys, what did he do? One day he entered in the studio of the painter, and on his panel where he was going to draw something, there he had drawn one fly with such a realism that when painter entered in his studio, he thought that some fly had set on my panel. He tried to sweat it away. But when he found it was not a real fly, it was a painting. Then he came to know that this painting with such a delicate realism was made by Quentin Matsys. He was greatly influenced by him. Then he immediately admitted him as his apprentice and got his daughter married to him. When he came to know that Quentin Matsys is not only a blacksmith, he is also a great painter who has painted such a beautiful fly which seemed to be quite real. He at once admitted that painter or Quentin Matsys in his studio, and he allowed his daughter to marry him. So this story about Quentin Matsys, this is the best example of European painting where the flies seem to be quite real. Now next, the author talks about Chinese philosophy, Shen Shui. Now what is Shen Shui? Shen Shui actually means mountain water. It is very important, children, that you should understand. You have to pay your attention here that Shen Shui is actually a Chinese philosophy which means mountain water, which is used together to represent the world landscape. So this Shen Shui, it is used to represent the world landscape. You will see here what is mountain. Mountain represents yang, that is the male principle, and water signifies yin, the male principle. So here you will see that mountain, he is representative of male, and water is representative of yin or female. These two represent the complementary pole, and this philosophy, these two complementary poles reflecting the Taoist universe view of the universe. On basis of this view, universe also depends on the same view. The mountain is yang. See the difference. They are both mountain and water. They are totally opposite to each other. Mountain is yang, reaching vertically to the heaven. It is vertical and it reaches towards the heaven. It is stable at one place. It is warm in nature. It is dry. On the other hand, yin, that is water, water is horizontal. It is resting on the earth. It is moist, fluid and cool. This is the difference between mountain and water. Although they are opposite to each other, but they are not called opposite. They are complementary to each other. Now between these two, mountain and water, interaction takes place. And between them, one thing is often neglected, and that is called the third element. And what is that third element which is often neglected? It is middle wide. Very important, middle wide. Wide, empty space. People generally forget about the middle space between mountain and water. But this is very important because this is the place where the interaction between mountain and water takes place. In the same way, the writer gives example. This process of interaction between mountain and water can be compared with the yogic practice of pranayama. Now, I will tell you how do we do pranayama. You know, children, we breathe in, we breathe out, and we suspend our breath for some time. That is called retain. We retain our breath. Where we retain our breath for some time, there only meditation takes place. Breathing in, retaining the breath and breathing out. So retaining is the middle or wide, middle wide, which is very important, and this is the place where meditation takes place. Nothing can happen without it, hence the importance of white unpainted space in Chinese landscape. And why the writer has given these examples? To show the importance of white and unpainted space in Chinese landscape, in Chinese paintings. Suppose Chinese paintings are there, some area is not painted, it is white, it is unpainted. But that area that is white, that is unpainted, that is equally important. That is just like a middle white, very essential part. In the second part, the author writes about the concept of art breadth. What is art breadth? I will tell you, which means the art of those who have no right to be called artist. Why they cannot be called artist? The reason is because they have not received any formal training. These artists, they have never gone to any school, they have never got any training. So that's why they have no right to be called artist. And here the writer gives example of Nek Chand. You might have been to Chandigarh. You might have seen the rock garden there. This is Nek Chand creation. Nek Chand, he has never gone to school, any art school, but he is the best example of art breadth, raw art, where he has never got any formal training, but he had made rock garden with the help of raw materials, with the help of rocks and raw material, and this is the best example of art breadth. So I think you might have understood the chapter. Now let us discuss something about the text, understanding the text. Here you have to contrast the Chinese view of art and European view with examples. Already I have told you that Chinese paintings are based on imagination. They are imaginative and spiritual in approach. If you see the Chinese painting, you have to enter the mind of the Chinese painter to understand that painting well. As in the example of the first story, where the emperor has called Bu Daozi to make the Chinese painting. The Chinese painter Bu Daozi showed him the way inside. He wanted that king should follow him, because without entering the mind of the painter, the king could not appreciate the beauty. So it is not based on external beauty, it is based on the inner or spiritual principle, spiritual approach. On the other hand, European view, that is totally different from Chinese view of the art. European paintings, they are totally based on realism. Although they may not be quite real, but they are quite close to be real. Illusionistic likeness, you may call it. So they are external, they are quite real. Now second, explain the concept of Shen Shui. Already I told you what is Shen Shui. Shen Shui is actually a philosophy. Chinese philosophy, it means mountain water. Mountain is called yang, Y-A-N-G, and water is called in. They are complementary poles. Their interaction takes place. And the third element which is always neglected, that is called middle wide. And what is that middle wide? This is called third element. This is very important because this is the place where interaction takes place. And very important thing that I should add here, man is also the middle wide, third element, who is very essential, and he also connects the earth with the sky. So man is very important, takes very important place in universe. Now next question is, what do you understand by the term outsider art, art breadth or raw art? As I told you, raw art, outsider art, it means the art where the artist has not taken any formal training. He has never been to any formal training school to get the training. On his own imagination, with the help of his own imagination, he makes the painting. And Nate Chand's rock garden is the best example of this. So in this way, I think the chapter is quite clear to you. If any confusion is left, if any doubt is left, if any problem is left, you can discuss in your Google Classroom. Thank you, students.